This is Richard Kahn, and we're doing now the Plastic to Metal Part 2 on the 2018 Promaster 2500 RV Hermes. This is going to be the parts on the left, which is the oil filler and the cooler. We're going to go from plastic to metal. While we're in there, we're also going to change the spark plugs, since we'll have the intake off. Okay, so here's the Dorman part. This is the bottom. I'll put the seals in. Here are the seals. You have the bolts. This next set will be how I removed the plenum and got to the oil filler and changed that from polyplastic to metal. Okay, so now, So now I'm getting ready to do the oil filler and cooler. And so I just wanted to say, when you're doing this, if you do this, there are the two forward bolts, and I'll show them over here, 10, and a 10 that hold this. Then there's the 7 here, 2, 4, 6, 7 that hold right here, that hold it. In this case, these two in here, they get damaged, but because Hermes was covered, they just opened up just pristine. You have a couple of connections that you dislocate here, and then here I have them turned out to the back. Then there's a 10 back here, and then another one back here, and then there's a more difficult stud over here that the hose assembly bracket fits into. It's this, and this part gets put into the, I guess it would be the head and of the engine, and then the bracket sits there, and then a bolt sits on and catches that bracket, and there's a washer that goes between the nut and the end here, and that's the little bit tricky part. But you have to make sure when you put your parts up here that you don't put them here, because there's a hole here. There's a hole here, and that hole, if you put them there, goes all the way down. You see this tube? It goes all the way down and lets out by the brake and axle of the driver's side over there. So you don't want to put anything up there on that side. Keep all your stuff on this side if you have it, and that's where I'm keeping my stuff there. And so this just lifts up in the back, and then slide it out from the forward and lift up, and this comes out. This comes out here, and I just want to show you. See in here that, let me see if I can, the head of that screw, it has a little bit of rust on it, and so I'm going to replace it with a new one, but it came out fine. And this one does not, it still has a little bit of rust. So this one has a little bit of rust, and that's because I didn't have that cover on for maybe 20,000 miles until I got smart. So that's the way that goes. Let me just show you here what goes on. But before I do, I'm going to take this piece of PVC plastic and I'm going to lay it across here, across the top, before I get in there with a vacuum to clean that out, so nothing goes in the cylinder, so that's there. And so you have, here's that one in the back, here's that other one in the back I was talking about. The hose goes on here. I marked the hose, just pushes off. You have the one clip here, then you have the other clip that goes on there that fits into here and is held there. And you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then in the front you have these two. And once that happens, you raise it and take it out. On the underside, let me just raise this up, take it out of here to my workbench, which is the top of one of our garbage cans. And you will see that this is flat. And so the here's where you have your seals. So the seals are on top of this low unit. This piece comes out, just lifts out over here, but I'm gonna vacuum everything before I start messing in there. And so I'll take it over there and in the next. So with the vacuum and the lights set up, I went in here and I vacuumed. Didn't have much dirt in it, but it had stuff. And so, as you can see, this thing's covered. I'm gonna blow it out now. You're gonna see things flying, but you have to keep that thing covered. You see that there's stuff coming up underneath it, so I have to stop blowing and then vacuum. So you don't wanna blow anything down into those holes. What I'm gonna do is, seeing it how's that's going, I'm gonna cover those holes now before I continue blowing. So now I've been using the blower, which I just showed you in the past frame, and the vacuum, because there's a bunch of stuff and debris in here. And because I'm going to be changing the spark plugs, which are these things here, under here, and on the back side, I'm gonna go ahead and brush all of that off and all of this off and clean it all even better. So one thing I did was I put the vacuum here in this little cavity, and I took the blower and I blew out here because there's a valley in there and a whole bunch of stuff went out over there. So when I open it, I don't have a bunch of stuff in there completely unfiltered. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna come back in here and then I'm going to brush here, brush, blow, and do that on this engine so that I can get it about as dust free for this repair as I can. Plus dust and blow. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to release the coils. These 1, 2, 3, and then over there. So that's where the spark plugs are. I'm going to change the spark plugs, but not right now. You press down. Looks like you press down on that and pull it out. 1, 2, and then I'm going to go around and do all 6 of those. So now to get the clips off here, so what you do is you have that red thing there, and you take a tool like this and you lift up on that red thing. Let's see if I can see that here. You lift up on the red thing with this. There, like that. You see that? And then behind it, there's a you press in. You press in, and it will come out. So you have to get this up, and then press in right there, right there. I need 2 hands, so you need to press in. There's like a little presser, and then pull out. So let me give you a little close-up so you understand how this thing's working. You don't damage it. This is the thing, the red one that you pull up, like I showed you just now. You pull that up, and then underneath it, there's this little black thing here. You press in, and you press this little black thing in, and then you just, like that, pull it away. That's how that works. This thing here, this is the fuel line, and so this has, let me have to figure that one out. So I'm going to take off the rest of the things over there. Okay, the way this fuel line works, this fuel rail, this is a protective, see that? How it covers the green buttons? So you need to pull that back so that you can access the 2 green buttons. There's one on top and one on the bottom. You press them both together and the fuel line comes off just like that. I am going to, see how that works there? There's another one at the bottom, see it? And I'm going to put a little finger of a vinyl glove on top of this piece here, as well as this hose here right now. So the next step is going to be to bend these back, right? It's going to go under that fuel line, which I put in a glove, and sit over to the side. Same with this one. And then I'm going to undo the bolts on the lower intake. I'm going to raise it up. But when I raise it up, I'm going to raise it up flat. And you see this little spigot that the fuel line came on? There's fuel in these rails. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a empty water bottle container ready that when I pick it up flat, then I'll tilt it, and I'll tilt that fuel into this container so I don't make a mess with the fuel. So now I'm going to take these 8mm bolts off. I'm probably going to do this whole thing by hand. It's no big deal. I don't want to get any air tools or power tools. This is going into plastic and coming out of plastic. So I want to be able to feel any resistance whatsoever. I suggest that's a good idea. There's only 8 of them. So I just want to show you that when you get this backed out like that, it becomes like that. You just pick it up, it becomes loose, and it's going to stay there. All of those are going to stay in there. But I don't want to use power tools or air tools on this. Then the last thing that we need to remove before that lower intake will come out is this plug that's in here on the side. So I'm going to remove it with this, and then that will free up the intake. So the lower intake comes out very easy. That last plug has to slide a little forward, so you have to lift one end up a little bit. But now I'm ready to put my bottle over here and lift this thing out, for which I'm going to need 2 hands. Just lift it right out and tilt it so that whatever fluid is in the fuel line goes into this, and then I'll cap it and close it. Well, underneath we can see that it is dry. That's nice. There's no liquids, there's no oil, there's no coolant in there. These are a mess, but I'm going to be able to clean that up very easily. I'm going to block these up, and then I'm going to clean each one with my little Scotch Guard and maybe a little what you call brake cleaner, and blow it out and vacuum it out and get that all out. So what we're going to have to do is remove these 2 pressure and the temperature, and then remove this unit, clean it all out in here before we bring it out, and then put the other one back in there. So it should be good. There should not be any coolant coming out when I take it out. So there you go. This is the before. Okay, so in order to do this job, this stuff, I don't know if it's critical, but I'm going to clean it all up. So brake cleaner alone doesn't do anything. The scrubby doesn't do anything. So what I'm doing is I'm using the vacuum and this steel brush, and I'm brushing as I vacuum in that area. And then at the end, I used a little of the brake cleaner, and I'm going to have to do that. I'm not going to put a wire wheel on this. I'm going to do it by hand, because wire wheel can be a little bit too aggressive. So it's not a big job, but it's going to take me 15 or 20 minutes. Okay, so that didn't take that long. I used the steel brush, and now what I'm going to do is I put on the gloves that I use for handling the gray tank and any type of liquids. Now I'm going to get my scrubby and the brake fluid. Well, actually it's brake cleaner, and I'm going to clean up a little bit more. I don't think that any of that stuff really makes a difference, because it's not within the seal of the cylinders. And I also want to say that with the steel brush, I hold the steel brush here, and then I put the vacuum in there, and then I'll take that out. That's how you do it. You don't just take that out. You have to vacuum it out first, and that steel brush will keep it down, so it pulls any debris in there. Then vacuum that out. We'll see how it works after I'm done. Okay, so that worked out really well. You need to remember a couple of things when you're using brake fluid or any type of fluid. Number one, don't squirt it in your face. It's easy to do. Make always sure that you're squirting away. Number two, don't squirt it directly onto I don't squirt it directly onto the part and get everything wet. I squirt it onto here and keep that wet. As long as this is wet, it's working pretty good. Third thing is, wear eye goggles at all times when you're using sprays and any type of thing. I'm always wearing glasses, including right now. And the fourth thing is a paper towel that has lint. So these shop towels, they don't. and they're better to use. They're a little bit expensive, but a roll lasts a pretty long time. This is very, very smooth, and this was going to be perfect for a seal. So that's all looking good. I'll leave that in there now, and I'm going to go to remove the cooler with the bolts that remove the unit. I'm going to bring these hoses out with it. I'm not going to try and take them off in here. I'm going to raise that up, and then when it's up, I'll put a piece of wood across of it to hold it, and then I'll work on these connections. They'll come out with it. One is coolant. Hopefully it doesn't have coolant in there because I drained it. Okay, so here's the Dorman. These are the nuts or the bolts, whatever, that hold the cooler down. And then this is the oil filter. This is a Dorman product made in the USA. Looks beautiful, stamped Dorman. And here are the seals. So I'll use my Seal Glide on the seals. And I'm not going to use this top. And this is an E. Looks like an E Torx. The filter. And so that looks pretty good. Here's my Permatex, a little to seal it up. Okay, so we'll get the other one out, and that's going to be what we put in. So remember, we used an E18 to take out the upper mounting bracket that was holding the engine, so it's an E Torx. This is another one from that little orange kit. This is an E8 right here, and you can see how it's a little bit different. This is the bolt that goes to the unit that goes into the block, not the one that holds the cooler on. So I just want to show you that. Let's see if I can get this going on here. This fits right on there like that. So that's what that is. That's an E8. Again, I'm going to work these with hand tool and not use air or power tools. So remember that you have to give this thing a tug because it's got this unit that's in there in that hole, and so there's some oil and some coolant mixed up. Probably what I'm going to do is, when I'm done with this, before I start the engine, I'm going to drain the oil that's in the pan and do an oil change, because I'm not sure what coolant went into the oil in the oil pan. So anyway, I'm going to vacuum that out. Well, at this point, that's what it looks like in there. Get this thing out. Just lift it up. Underneath, it looks like that. So it needs a good cleaning, but I don't think that any of that, nothing was leaking before. That's just a lot of gunk that gets stuck in there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and remove the pressure and the temperature and the coolant, so I can lift this unit out. And it looks like it's the same type of setup. Pull the red up and then press the pieces. So yes, that's how that temperature sensor worked. But you see this clamp here, that you have to use a pliers and squeeze the upper and then that's gonna allow it to open up. So I'll lift it out. I won't be able to get a photo of it, and by pressing those two, it should release it. I'm gonna mark the hose on the unit, so I know just how it sits. You can see I marked the pressure sensor where the right there on that, and then there on that, and I'll do the same right there. So I'm using two of my hands here, one to hold this and whatever, but you see on the black unit there's a little silver mark, and then there's a mark on that coolant hose below the clamp. Well, I held the new one up and I put a golden mark about where it will sit against that hose when it goes on, so that I know the relationship of the two. So you can see the tool that I used for that little needle nose was not good enough. It's one of these, and that opened it up. So now this thing should just come right out. There's another sensor on there, huh? So there's the upper sensor, the lower sensor, and then the hose. So let me see how this one comes off. Just press that button, pull it off, and then this comes out. Just like this. Here it is. Here's this baby. And I'm going to tell you that I do not think that this thing was leaking. So the leak was from the coolant crossover, which was the video before here. But this is going to get changed. I'm going to reuse these sensors because they're the OEM ones. And I'm not going to use the ones that come with the replacement part. So I'm doing a dry fit and just setting it down in there. Fits perfectly, goes right in. I can tell you this, I don't think I need to be cleaning this thing here in that valley. And there's a couple of connectors and these wires and things like this, I don't know what they are. So the only thing I need to be cleaning are the spots where oil and coolant go. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to clean those. I'm going to leave the other stuff just like it is. I don't think it's bothering anybody or anything. So there's 5 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this one goes down into a hole. So there's 6 holes. You can't clean that one, just maybe on the inside a little. But I'm going to use some abrasive sandpaper. I'm going to use this. I'm going to use my little bit of a wire wheel, my wire brush. And I'm going to get those surfaces nice and smooth. The rest I'm going to leave the way it is. So I've been working on it a little bit, and they look pretty good. So you have one, that's the one that it goes in, and that's nice and smooth on the inside. And you have another one, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm going to get it cleaner. This stuff, this isn't going to do anything to anything. I'm going to just leave that, no problem. There's, I don't see any real problem over there. So initially, when I was looking at this, this is a 27, and this one here is a 19. This has Sealtex or Pemex, whatever it's called. And this has Loctite. I thought because of these markings that this was lefty-tighty, righty-loosey, but it's not. It just has those markings. I don't know why. To the left is loose, and then, see it? It's got a torque, but it comes out loose. So usually those markings on a bolt means that it's the opposite of righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, but in this case, it's not. So I'll take them out. I'm going to reuse these. So I'm going to clean these up, and then I will put Loctite and the Pemex or the Sealtex. Well, let's see. What is the name of this stuff? Permatex. That's what goes on there. Okay, so I have the Permatex. I'm going to reuse this. I needed to use the impact wrench to get this thing off. This was a bear to get off. I couldn't do it manually. So there you go. Put the Permatex, then put the red Loctite, then put them back in, then put the cooler on, and then turn it over, put the O-rings in, and then get this thing installed. You want to make sure that these connectors are in the same position as the photographs of the ones that you took out. I didn't mark the body because it's a different body, but I matched them to the photograph. I matched the threads that I counted when I took it out, and they're in the same position. So that's what it is right there. So the oil cooler to the housing, these you use the provided screws or whatever it's called, there's bolts, whatever. and you put it on here. One of the top has a little guide hole up there, like that. And then they go down to 106 inch-pounds right here. Torque, cooler to housing, screws. So they're screws, 106 inch-pounds. So that's what I'm going to do. So going back to the inch-pound torque kit, I got the bolt top. It's a T30, fits right in there. And so that is what it's going to be torqued with, the T30. Since I can't get it in there with my one hand, you'll just have to take my word for it. Okay, the way you do this is you torque these down to about 50 each first. You don't torque them down, you don't go right to 106. You torque them about halfway, and then you go crosswise like that, and then do it so that you're not bending anything. It's aluminum. So again, you put the 0 right flat on 100, and then if you want 106, you turn the blue one to 6. Okay, so right now the unit's in. It's all torqued to 106 inch-pounds. Put it in, torqued it up. The coolant hose is connected. I didn't connect yet the 2 sensors. They're right there. And everything's real good. I've got that cap, which I'm going to lose at the end. I'll leave it there so that I see it very well. The cylinders are very clean, very clean. I wound up putting a tool on it with a wire brush on it to get them really, really smooth. Once I had that out, and I laid something down in the center, a cut piece of cardboard over the center, and I cleaned it all up so they're like silk. And what I'm going to do now is, because I used the paper towel and not the blue towel, there could be lint in the cylinders. So I'm going to vacuum each one of the cylinders, and then I'm going to put the lint-free that I have, or cover it with the other unit. I'll decide. It's getting pretty close to dark, but that's where it's at. So I got some cardboard covering the holes. The sensors are on. Everything's good. That thing's in tight. And now it's dark. Well, I don't know. It's almost dark. And I'm ready for be ready for tomorrow. It is extremely weird what happened. When I was vacuuming out the cylinders, I actually got a little piece of, I don't know, it looks like an acorn. I don't know where an acorn. I guess we bought this from somebody in Milford or somewhere in New Jersey. And there was an acorn, I guess, bobbing up and down in there. I caught it in the vacuum, and then I could not believe that. But anyway, those cylinders are nice and clean, and she's ready to pick up tomorrow and put back together. The rest of the job is pretty straightforward. What I want to do before I put the intake manifolds back is change the spark plugs. So they're going to be new spark plugs in there. So might as well as long as I have that. See you tomorrow. Make sure to put the filter in to the filter housing. Also to put the new O-ring, and I use SureGlide, that stuff you see me use to lubricate that and the threads. This is a 24 millimeter, and it should go in nice and clean, just like that. It shouldn't be very, very hard. See how easy it's going in? And then at the end, it just gets put down nice and firmly with a 24-inch ratchet. And it shouldn't be difficult or sticking, and it's just nice and firm until you feel that it stops. There, it stopped. You can hear that the O-rings are being compressed. You hear that? And there it stopped at the top of the metal. That's it. This is how I changed the spark plugs while I was in there changing the oil filler and had the plenum removed. Okay, so now it's going to be time to do the spark plugs. The let's see, the spark plugs, this comes out with this bolt, then they'll come out and spark plugs will go back in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Make sure to blow everything off and have it nice and clean so nothing gets down in the hole. Make sure to clean and blow around where the openings for the shock absorbers are, so that you don't get any debris into the hole. These are 10s, and you can go ahead and loosen them. I'm using an air tool. You can go ahead and loosen them. They don't come out. They just sit in there. So you can go and loosen all 6 of them. Okay, the way it works is this. You have dielectric grease. You have the new spark plug already pre-gapped. You have a Q-tip. You take the unit out like that. The spark plug's in that hole. Dielectric grease gets swirled around the inside of this unit down here at about the height of the top of the spark plug. Not on the spark plug, it doesn't matter if it gets there, but in there. And that facilitates spark going where it's supposed to go from there and not being wasted or backed up in there. And then you just torque them down and that's it. So this spark plug, this uses a 5/8 inch spark plug. You see it, a little rubber in there? A 5/8 inch spark plug removal tool. And that just sits right there like that. And then can get into the, use it by hand. You turn it loose first until it seats, only with the post, not with the ratchet, and then start to tighten it by hand. To take the spark plug out, by the way, you need a little bit longer extension. I use that 5/8 inch spark plug socket, and then a manual, there it is, to release it. And then if you want, you can come back in and put the air tool on to take it off. I do not use an air tool to tighten it down. When you take it out, you can inspect the end to make sure it's not full of grease and oil, oil and residue and whatever. That's a beautiful looking spark plug right there coming out of Hermes. So the new one will just go right back in. I do not use any type of grease or anything on these threads. Only the, as I told you, the treatment for the top of the unit with the dielectric grease. The reason you use the socket that's designed for the spark plug, you see that little rubber in there, is so that when you slip the spark plug in, you'll see that you push it in and it catches. It catches now. So it's not going to fall out when you stick it in there. That's why you don't use just a regular socket. So this is going to be a little difficult for me to show you because I need one hand to hold the camera. But for the back ones over here, especially this one that has the low thing, what I'm doing is I'm using the socket, which I showed you earlier, the 5/8 spark plug socket, with a little adapter down to 1/4. And so what I'm doing is bringing the socket down, and then I'm going to hook this little extension on it, and it's going to go all the way down and bring it up that way. And when I take it out, I have to remove these parts. That's how you can get in here. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get in there. You can lose a little bit of an air tool. To release the spark plug, but you're not going to be able to get it out. You got to take it out, as I showed you before, in parts. Take the top off, then get it out, it's not going to come here. You have to hold this part, remove this part, and then get it out like that. Let me show you a handy little tool, okay? When you go to Harbor Freight or something, you get this thing. It's like an extendable magnet, and the magnet twists a little at the end, and it extends, and it can go probably, I don't know, 24 inches. I broke it off at the end, so it's about one hand thickness, and I keep it in my toolbox. And it is the perfect thing to stick down in there and pull a spark plug out, like this one. If this spark plug was in here, right? I just stick this thing down in here and pull the spark plug out. See that there? And then I can grab it. And that makes a big, huge difference, because in many things, it's a great tool. So now that all the spark plugs are done, I'm going to move to replacing the lower intake. This thing is nice and clean and beautiful. The oil cooler, I don't know if you can see it, is in, all torque. All of the fittings were put back into the way. The coolant pipe is on in the same spot. Everything's ready to go. The filter's in. I put the old top back on, and so keep those covered. They're all clean. Take a look at the spark plugs. All of the spark plugs are beautiful in Hermes. Take a look at that. There's no fouling. There's no nothing to be alarmed about. It's got 35,000 miles. The engine's running beautifully. So a little bit lean, maybe a little bit lean. This one's a little richer, but ready to close it back up. So you remember we took this apart, and you remember that I used the water bottle to drain the fuel in the fuel line. If you don't do that, you are going to have I don't know, as much as in these tubes and in the injectors, fuel coming out all over the place. So this one's dry. This is the bottom. Looks pretty good. I'm going to take these out, clean them, lubricate them, put new seals in. Same with the top. These things, they can come out right now. There's nothing in there. And so the object now is to take these out, put the new ones in with some Super Lube. I use Super Lube from Harbor Freight instead of Sil Glide. And put them in, seat them in properly, clean it all up, and then that's going to go in. That's going to be the first one that goes in. So in the Dorman kit, they give you your seals. These seals have that little indentation, so they're for the bottom of the lower unit. And the top of the lower unit has these seals. They're rectangular. You get the seals out like that, then they look pretty clean. If you have to clean the inside of this thing, that's fine. You can do it with a very with a little plastic bristle brush. No metal. Nice easy job. So as you see, I'm using a toothbrush. That's a nice gentle for the inside there. But I just want to show you, when you see that they have these channels, there's a little space there. That's so you can put your little pick underneath and get underneath the seal to open it without damaging the seal. That's what that's for. So you'll see that on pretty much all of your O-rings or seals. You should have a little bit of a, like here. Here's another one. Here's another one. Okay. Don't be sticking this thing in and you know, damaging the seal. So you're going to be cleaning the inside of the channels and then the inside of the collars there. I'm going to wear eye cover. I'm going to do this top and bottom. Then put the super lube on. Put the seals back in. It is not necessary. These bolts which hold the fuel rail, they have some rust on them. It's not necessary to clean them up. It's not going to do anything. But I'm going to clean them up anyway because that's the way I roll. Then the rags that were in there, I want to take them and start to clean out the inside of each one of these. So the bottom side of the lower unit is going to be the one that's greasier or dirtier or has a little more fuel and whatever. I'm going to retain these seals. These seals are in good shape. I'm just going to, just going to clean them up. But you want to clean this, and you'll see, clean it. It has residual dirt. It doesn't really make much of a difference, but I like to get it clean before putting it back. I'll put the bottom seals in first, set it down. Then when it's down in place, I'll put the top seals in. It almost looks brand new, right? So you get you get two of those, one over here, and then there's another one that fell on the floor, so you get 2 to 3. Here's one here. Those are the dirt that comes out of the inside that you think is clean. So now, they're beautiful. They're almost like brand new. So I take the super lube and I put a nice little piece on there, and then I'm gonna drag my finger all around over here. I'm gonna put a little dabs in there like that, and that's how I'm going to lube up the seals before I put them back in. So that's beautiful. And so now I'm going to take these out. Everything's nice and clean in there, and I'm just going to set that right back on there. When you set this lower intake on, you have to tilt it. You set it in with the left side higher and the other side lower, because you have to get this clamp or this hinge underneath this other hinge. And in order to do that, to get this tube hinge above, you slide it in like this. Now I'll put the top seals on. I said that I was going to put the top seals on, which I will do. But what I'm going to do first is, I've got these pressed in. These are the bolts that hold the unit on. So I'm going to install them and torque them down so this doesn't move. Then I'll put the top seals in. So I just want to say that these things, they're going to go to 106 inch-pounds, which is what we've been using. But you're going to bring them down just firm onto the plastic at about 50 inch-pounds. So just firm to the plastic all around, and then crosswise bring them up to 106 inch-pounds. That's how that goes. So it's torqued and properly seated. So it's all nicely done and perfectly torqued. So what I did was I torqued it to 50, and then I torqued it to 96, which I showed you, and then I torqued it to 106, which is what it's supposed to be. So it was actually quite a little effort, but it's beautifully done. Now I'm going to put the seals in, which are here, with some super lube, and then put the top on. Now I will do the reverse of the removal, right? So I'm going to hook up the wires and everything and bring everything out. I covered these up just like that. They'll be fine, and put everything back together before I put in the upper. I make a habit of giving a little spray of air into the connectors like that, just to make sure nothing got stuck in there while they were on the side. So everything's all connected back up. The lines, the wires, these in the reverse order, the fuel line, these two, one in there, one in here, go into the mount that holds these hoses. And now I really don't think that the online videos that said that you had to disconnect this from the block had to be disconnected from the block, because I see that you can just get them from here and here. So I'm going to install the stud back into the head. and go from there. Okay, so if you can see on this bracket, let's see if I can grab this bracket here. See, this bracket has a hole right there. That's the one that goes into the head. You can see on the other side that it has a little wear mark, see it? From where it was held. So getting that back in, you have to search for it. But it really, if you use your finger, it's right here. Oops. It's right there. So what you have to do is isolate the hole and then stick it in. So I'll put these two bolts back to hold these brackets, one here and one here on this crossover. So the one bolt goes here, see it? And then the other one goes here, right there. And the front of the plenum goes in here and locks up. So that's where that is. So this is the top of the plenum. I'm going to put the plenum in now. I'm going to clean it up to go in. But you see those two bolts that I discussed are get rusty? Well, with the top that I keep on Hermes on the motor, no water gets in there. There's rust, but they're not. It hasn't penetrated the bolt, and they came undone very easily. But as I posted earlier, I bought a couple more. Here's the receipt. I don't know, I put a picture of it before. This is the bolt number. And the regular price is $13.50 each. I paid $5, $4.90 each. I just purchased them on the 25th, about 5-6 days ago. And now I'm going to install the two. I'll keep the other ones, but I'm going to install the two nice new ones in there. And I'm going to keep two in my tool bag. So this is the one on the driver's side here that I pulled out. And this one has some rust at the top, but you see where the rust is beginning to accumulate there at the top of the threads? That is the type of rust that when it gets worse and you turn the top of this bolt, that snaps off there. And that's what they're talking about. They have to now dig this out of the plastic here. They'll have to dig it out of there, what's under there. So that intake, the lower intake there. And so that's what we want to prevent with the plastic that prevents water from getting into these areas, and water that gets into here that I posted on separately. That's just nowhere near the rust amount, so that's why it came out easily. But this is the new one that's going in. Unit goes right here. So I'm going to take this off. Everything's clean in there from previously. I'm going to put a little bit of the lubricant at the very top because the cardboard kind of like ate it up. It's not necessary. It's really necessary where it's in, but I'm just going to top it off with a little bit and then set that down on there. Remember, it goes first into these two holders here, which are 10s, and then it sets down, and the back two go into here. I have this loosened so I can put it on and then screw it in, and then those bolts go in and torque down to, I believe it's 106 inch pounds. The plenum goes flat on there. I'm going to clean it up, and then I'm going to put a little bit of a coating of the super lube to meet with the gaskets, the red gaskets I just showed you. You want to make sure that you pull all of these bolts up. You may need the needle nose pliers to pull the ones in the center there up. Pull them all up so that they're not hanging down when you're going to go to put them onto the intake over there, because it's supposed to lay flat. If you have them down, it's not going to be a good fit. It's going to be very difficult. So keep them up so that the bottom side of this is flat and doesn't have any impediments to laying down and positioning on its mate at the bottom. These are a lot of turns on these bolts. So what I'm doing is I've seated them manually seated them down, pushed them down, and then using this air tube to push on the close. As soon as I feel that it even touches a bit, 50 inch-pounds, and then up to, I think these are 80, because it's going into plastic. You got to be very careful. It's a bolt metal going in through plastic into plastic. So I think it's maybe 70. It says 89, but I'll probably do 70 inch-pounds. Okay, so after I go around and I seat them so that they're like this, just up against the top. Now I know it's flat. So now I'll go on, that's about, they say about maybe 40, 50. And so now I'll go in and torque them. To torque them, I should be able to, once, you hear it? That's the torque. That's all it is. And do them evenly. Well, you don't do it one at a time. You do one here, then one there, then one here, then one there, then one there, then one there. That's how you do them. So you're just going to go in reverse order. You're going to put this back down. You have that there. This thing goes from over here. This will come out when you after you put that in. So you have this, you have this, you have this one goes here. Oops, that bolt fell out of here. So I'll have to get it with a magnet. You have the bracket in the back that those two little studs go on. At the bottom it goes on a stud that holds the tubes. You have this tube that needs to go here. Okay, put that tube back on. Like that. So that it lines up. It's a little bit twisted there so that the lines line up. That's perfect. And then you have this one back here that went to here. Went here. I don't know if you can see that there. Press that in. That's locked on. You have this one here, goes here. Press that in, that locks on. You have this one here, goes here. Press it in, that one locks on. This has a little clip. Don't know how necessary it is, but I'll come back and clip it with a Ziploc. I like to get it perfect. And then this one will come over and come to the other unit. And when I get the other unit in, I'll hook the rest of it up. This one goes into that one. And now I'm going to tighten up the motor mounts on this side, then put the air box back in. So it's just basically going in reverse. So here's an issue. As the last video showed, this, what is it, a nut? Like this one? Just came out, fell down. Fell down, it's right here. I just can't get it. It's right next to the fuel rail. I tried with needle nose, long needle nose. It's just sitting right there. But it's stainless steel, so I can't get it with a magnet. And I can't get it with this, and I can't get it with a thinner one. So I'm just gonna leave it there. But I'm gonna take this clamp off. I'm gonna put a stainless steel clamp from my kit that I showed you in the beginning of all the videos. That won't happen. So that's just the defect in that unit there. So I don't want to get it and put it back in anyway. I got it right out of here. It's not going to leave. It's not going to bother anything leaving it there. It's right against the rail, and it'll be fine. But I'm not going to take everything apart to get that bolt out. And that, I'm glad I discovered it. Now needs to be changed. And it's attached by a little plug, like I showed you in the very beginning videos. So I just pry it right off.